Hey guys, it's your boy Chili coming back at you with some RPG Project Twin. Today we're going to finally be digging into some code, and we're going to get our hands dirty coming up with some assets for the first prototype, some sprites. Alright, let's take a look at the actual development history of the repo here, the project. We're going to be spending a lot of our time here because this is where I'm going to be going over the changes and briefing you guys on how the project evolves. So we start off with basically the code from Intermediate 13, because that's where I was up to when I started this, and I added all the template stuff that you saw in Intermediate 14. Because it wasn't done yet. I actually did it here first, and then I redid it for the Intermediate 14 video. Added some improvements to Vec2 class. These aren't in the Intermediate 14, but it's very simple. Instead of having Instead of having the plus and equals operator be defined in terms of the plus operator, I switched it around. So now the plus operator is defined in terms of plus and equals. But that's the only difference I really changed there. So no biggie, but it's a little better that way if you want to know. Now, here is where we get into some stuff. Mirrored sprite drawing and terrible chili head. So let's see what this looks like. So here's my first test of the mirrored sprite drawing, and also just a little idea of what graphic I wanted to use for the main character. So you got chili here, press the space bar, and you get the mirrored drawing of the chili head sprite. Obviously bad shit with the the chroma key there on the outline. Got some bad anti-aliasing there from the sprite. Gonna have to fix that. But this is the start idea of what I had. Now, the sprite, like I said before, sprite only faces one direction. It's facing left. So how do I get it? How do I get the right facing version, you might say? Well, I mirror that in code. So if we look at the changes in this commit, you see I added a file chili.h, but then I decided, well, actually, I'm not going to be creating the character until I've got some other stuff done. Now, the main thing here is graphics.h. I have changed draw sprites so that it takes a Boolean parameter reversed, and this is to say whether or not the sprite will be drawn reversed, mirrored in the x direction or not. And that code is in here. If we look here, there's an if statement. If reversed, we do this loop here. If not reversed, otherwise we do this loop. And they're the same, except one of them is going to do a little bit of mirroring bullshit. This is the mirroring bullshit right here. Now, I'm not going to explain this code right now because it actually has two bugs in it. So I will tell you just for quick little explanation here. What you do when you draw a normal sprite, right, is you got your sprite, you got your screen. Your sprite is going to go somewhere on the screen. You scan left to right, top to bottom through your sprite, and you read pixel values from here, and you draw them here. Scanning again left to right, top to bottom on the screen. Now, the only thing you need to do to reverse a sprite in this situation is when you are drawing, instead of scanning left to right in your source in your sprite, you scan right to left. Scan right to left here, but when you're drawing, you still scan left to right on the screen. And doing this will draw it with a mirrored, and that is exactly what we're doing in this code here. If you look at the code here, the not reversed version, here we are getting the pixel from SX and SY. If in the reversed version, we're getting the pixel from right minus SX. So here, as SX increases, we're actually, the reading position in the X is decreasing because this is negative, right? Bigger SX moving to the left. Whereas here, bigger SX moving to the right. That's the only difference. And again, like I said, there are bugs in this code that will become apparent later on through the development, and when I fix them, I will describe them. But yeah, there's my first test of the mirroring, and at that point I was like, yeah, it looks good. Actually, it was not good. Then I make a little less shitty version of the chili head sprite. I test the face and the legs together. So the way I do that is, I determine face position with the mouse and leg position, and then I draw the sprite for the legs, and then I draw the sprite for the face, and there you go. You got your chili head walking on some legs. But we will not look at that right now. Next thing we're going to do is we'll look at the walking test. Now the walking test is the same idea, except I add an animation object, and this is from the tutorial 12, I want to say. Intermediate 12, we created the animation class, and so now I'm going to be drawing the chili head on top of legs that are animated. So a.draw leg position graphics, and we update the leg animation here. So this is what that looks like. You can see the chili head sprite looks a little better, but the legs, I don't know, they're not doing it for me, not at all. But you can see, there you go. Now the legs aren't being reversed here, so that's a problem. So the next thing I did was I tried to find, some different animation for the legs. I tried to find a different sprite that had legs that I wanted to steal, and I got some skinnier legs, and they were looking sexy. I just drew them statically under the chili head in this commit here. So I decided to do an animation test for the skinny legs, and this is what that looks like. So you see, I've removed the hair from the chili head because it wasn't doing it for me, and I wanted to make the character sprite smaller. I don't want to make it too goddamn big. It's gonna take up too much of the screen. So I resized that shit, and here's the legs. And now you can see the legs, they're shifting around as the animation moves. So they're not perfectly aligned in the sprite sheet. They're not regularly spaced. So I had to change that. Now the way I did that was I drew these little guidelines as layers over top of the sprite image. You can see here, if I can move this layer around like this, and it has the left boundary, right boundary, and the middle points here. So I created these layers and I drew them on here, and then I used that as guides to kind of move the sprite around so that it's at the same spot in the frame every time. I had to add a little extra space at the end of the sprite sheet as well to accommodate the shifting to the right. But yeah, did that, and this is the result of that. So I fixed the leg alignment, and then I tried it with mirroring, but when I mirrored it, the animation would stop. And the reason for that is, well, there was actually a bug in the mirroring code. That's the first bug I was talking about. Now, the problem with this is that SX starts at sourceRect.left. When you take right and you subtract SX now, left, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be starting at the first frame. And no matter what frame you actually pass into this function, it will always only draw the first frame, and that is why it wasn't animating when I pressed the spacebar. It was really tricky to find this bug because when I pressed the spacebar and it wasn't animating, I assumed the problem was in the animation class. But as always, you never assume anything, and by doing some investigation, I found it was actually in here. This code was wrong. What I should have done was I should have pre-calculated the offset and then subtracted SX from the offset. And the offset is just the rect.left plus the rect.right, the source rect. And with that fix applied, now you can see we've got the walk-in sprite. It's not sliding around underneath the head here. And you mirror that shit, now it's walking in the other direction. So this is pretty good, and this is actually what we're going to be using for at least the beginning prototype of our character. Here I made it so that you can specify the color that the background is cleared to at the beginning of every frame. No big deal. And here we have walking chili character is killing it. So here I've created the character. I've actually put the code into chili.h, and it's just your basic character code from tutorial intermediate 12, I believe. So we got a surface for the head, surface for the legs, and we got animation sequencing here somewhere. No, actually we got a vector of animations. Right, because there's two animation sequences, one for walking and one for standing, which is just no animation at all. Alright, that makes sense. And yeah, it's basically most of the stuff that you've seen in Intermediate 12. I'm not going to go over it in super detail, but as you can see here, I've added a lot of comments. So if anything you're interested in, you can review that on your own. And if we do this, you can see the walking chili dude doing his thing. Walking character. Looks fairly decent. This is what we're going to be going with. Now, let me show you the second bug that we'll be fixing later on. I didn't realize it at this point, but if we try to go off the screen, you can see we might have a little problem with our clipping logic here, yeah? So the clipping Plus the mirroring is giving us a little bit of a problem here, yeah? So you see in one direction it's fine in the non-mirrored direction, but as soon as we go into the mirrored direction, it's kind of fucked up. So that'll be fixed later on. Here's where I'm going to leave it off for today. Next video, we're going to look into adding some enemies and maybe doing some collision checking and damage processing. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video. If you did, please click the like button. It helps a lot. And I will see you soon with some more RPG Project Twin.